A bit about economic policy and follows it closely is Christopher Snowdon from the Institute of Economic Affairs. Nice to have you with us, Christopher. Thank you for joining us. What did you make of Boris Johnson's speech? Is his high wage vision achievable?
I thought it was a very entertaining speech. I mean, I think Boris he's in a class of his own, really. I think when it comes to this kind of thing, you showed one of the more serious bits there, but there were a lot of jokes throughout it. It was a bit thin on policy, but I think that's fair enough. I mean, policies are being announced all the time. We've had an election in 2019 with lots of policies. We had one in 2017, there are lots of policies. So you can't just announce policy after policy. There's quite a bit to look at already in terms of that. In terms of the wage growth idea, I mean, I'm very sceptical about it. The idea seems to be that if we create labour shortages by restricting immigration, then employers will just have to pay British people more to do the same jobs. Now, if that works, then that's good in the short term, at least, for some employees, but it does rely on a lot of British people wanting to suddenly work picking fruit or working in hotels or driving trucks or being au pairs. It's not obvious that we do have enough people in the country already who want to do those jobs. But if I'm wrong about that and they get a pay rise, the prices have to go up. And then when prices go up, people want another pay rise. And you could very quickly get in a situation where you have rapidly rising inflation. I know the Bank of England is now predicting 4%, having only recently predicted 2% by the end of the year. The markets are betting on about 6%. I personally think it'd be in that area. So there's a real danger, I think, over the course of the next 6 to 18 months of a kind of spiraling inflation as people's wages struggle to keep up with price rises, and increasing wages leads to still further price rises.
We have got, as you know well, Christopher, a record 1 million plus vacancies in the UK today. But as you hint, there is what economists call regional mismatch, occupational mismatch between those vacancies and the people who may or may not want to do those jobs. It strikes me that the way to get higher wages is for companies to invest in skills, to invest in better technology in order to push our production up the value chain, if you like. That's what I think the Brexit vision was about. The Prime Minister, though, doesn't seem to get that. He seems more interested in picking a fight at the end of this conference with business leaders who are meant to be his natural supporters.
Yes, I mean, I tend to agree with you. What we really need is an increase in productivity. That's been the problem since the financial crisis in 2008. Wages haven't been at all stagnant, but they've been pretty poor for over a decade now, partly because we were coming out of the recession at the start of the decade. Then we got hit by the pound slumping after the referendum result, just as wages were actually getting going. And then, of course, we got COVID. In terms of unemployment, we don't really know where we are with that just at the moment. You're quite right that there's a record number of vacancies, and that's fantastic. And certainly unemployment hasn't gone anywhere near as high as a lot of people, including myself, feared about a year ago. But then, to be fair, we didn't know the furlough scheme was going to last 18 months. That now has of course, been wound down last week. And hopefully the vast majority of those people who were furloughed were only being furloughed for a day or two here and there, and they've got jobs to return to. Not everyone will. If you look at airlines, for example, it seems likely there's going to be redundancies there. But I think if we take an optimistic look at that and say maybe we'll have an extra couple of 100,000 redundancies adding to unemployment, it's not too bad in the great scheme of things. And we have to remember unemployment was really low before COVID came along. It was below 4%, which I think most economists would say is realistically in the modern age about as good as it gets. You've got a lot of people there who are just between jobs. You've got people who are maybe working on the black market and signing on, and you've got some people who are just never going to get a job. So the idea that we have masses and masses of people who are just itching to go out and do seasonal farm work or start working in hotels, and these are areas where you often can't increase productivity by technology alone. Anything that's labor intensive, like working behind a bar, working in a hotel, there's not a lot you can do with that. So I really do think we're limited with this, and Boris is picking a fight that doesn't need to be picked. I think that they've been wrong in the way they've brought about their immigration policy. We don't have to have an immigration policy like this just because people voted to leave. I accept that people do want to control the borders more, but I suspect people who voted leave on the grounds of immigration, they were more concerned about, us being unable to stop Romanian pickpockets living in the country rather than people coming in for a few months in the summer to pick strawberries.
So the IEA, Institute of Economic Affairs, it is a sort of grand think tank. You've been around for many, many decades. What's the one thing, briefly, Christopher, that you think Boris Johnson should do on the economy?
Oh, I don't know if I could pick one. I mean, we need to look at these shortages of labour. All the most pressing issues were totally avoided by Boris in the speech today. You wouldn't think that we just have been having people queuing up at the pumps, that we're short of energy. Gas prices are going through the roof, and we're looking at rising inflation. He hasn't really said anything to address those problems. In the longer term, the solutions, I think, are to seize the opportunities presented by Brexit, but not in terms of stopping anybody coming in the country, but in terms of the deregulation that will ultimately lead to greater productivity.
Said Christopher Snowdon, Institute for Economic Affairs. Thanks a lot for joining us on GB News. Look forward to having you on the show another time.